intoxicated, and then all of a sudden,
but I'm pretty sure it's one of the same people in here.
just a few more days. I was so excited too. I was just like, bro, I'm poor. Hey, our favorite delusionists. Welcome back to the last episode for the book Once Upon a Broken Heart. We are so excited to talk about the last, 24 chapters, and the ending that just blew my mind.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I feel like this literally went from like 0 to 100 so fast and it just stayed. It plateaued at 100. Oh my gosh. My week was a little busy, and so Winona finished it before I did. And just the texts and the Snapchats I got from her were of her just freaking out about all of the things that happened. And we were so excited to go over these with you. But y'all are in for a wild ride, okay? Let's get started. What do we want to start with first? Okay, I have this really big theory that I kind of want to start out with. So should we just recap? Let's recap about what happened in the book.
So the last we left off was the wedding, right? Or was about to be the wedding.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay. So she gets married to Apollo, and he's still obsessed, as men should be with their wives. And um she's talking to Jax. She sees him. He goes down this corridor. Um, she has this interaction with Jax, and she sees these like little foxes, and the foxes are kind of scared of Jax. And she's like, "This is really weird." Um, but her husband is like waiting for her in the wedding
Sweet.
room,
Yeah.
their room. Yeah, wedding suite. Um, she is like just so afraid to go up in there, but when she does, he's like sitting like laying in bed. There were like millions of rose petals and whatever.
Chest all
And
oiled up.
this is so funny. He's all oiled up. Like he's literally only wearing pants and like there's a very like descriptive description. I'm going with it of just how oiled he is because it's a plot point, right? Um
Isn't he like
and
stroking
then
his chest too? Sorry, not to interrupt, but like he's sitting there being like, "What took you so long?"
you like anyway, and then the oil really makes like the tattoo that he has of her name like really pop. Um and I think she kisses him or something.
Yes, that's why the fox was scared of him, because he was totally fine with Jax until he like, pricked his
Oh
finger
yeah,
into the thing. And this time it was not sweet like it normally has been. It was very bitter.
bitter.
And just did not even want it on our lips. But it was to break the spell that Apollo was under,
Yeah,
to no longer be obsessed with her.
right. So she goes, she kisses him, and he's like, "What have you done? What have you done?" And then he dies because and she thinks it's because of
He,
not Jax.
no, he turned to like stone almost though. I don't think he was actually stone. He was just hard as a rock, as if he was a
Oh,
frozen body, if that makes sense. But she also drank
right.
something before she kissed him too. So
Yeah, he drank the whole glass of wine of this whatever drink, and she only had a few sips.
no, I thought
And
she
she
drank the
mentioned
whole
how it
thing at
tasted
once.
weird. No, he did
Okay.
because it didn't have that much of an effect on her, but then he turned to stone. At least I'm pretty sure.
I thought she drank the whole thing because she was trying to like stall and trying to get some courage. And so she poured herself a glass, like a full glass, and then she took a couple of sips and thought to herself, this is disgusting, but was still trying to stall and still trying to have some liquid courage. And so she just downed it and then was like, all right, let's just get to this. And went to kiss him. And then he said the like whole, what did you do to me? Why does it feel like you've stabbed me in the heart? And then of course she's thinking he's over the spell of being in love with her. So she was going to start apologizing, and then he just keeled over basically and was hard as a rock. Not that he necessarily turned to stone, but was very just solid and dead.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he didn't drink anything because the he got anyway. So yeah, she was poisoned by like the Fates tears or like that M
Mm-hmm.
something
Yep,
or other,
the
right?
tears.
That makes the tears. And then he was cursed by Jax. That's where I got confused. Anyway, it's been a while. It's a few days since I've read at least this part of the book.
That's good.
Anyway, yeah, so that would clear this up. Right. He turns to stone, and you think he's dead. And so he's yelled loud enough for the guards to come into the room, and now they've obtained her or re retained her.
Took her
Basically, they're
away.
holding her captive because they either way, they think she murdered Apollo, and so they keep her locked up, and she is just bawling her eyes out. Almost as if she is also under a spell, which I just mentioned like 30 seconds ago that she was. Um, and she cannot physically stop crying. And then Jax comes in, saves the day. Um, and then you find out that Lala is also a fate. And do you remember which fate that she is? Because
Yeah, it wasn't called the
oh,
Cursed Bride because that's what Marisol is called, but it's basically the same thing where she can be engaged as many times as she wants, but every single time she goes to get married, she's left at the altar and cries. And that's, what her tears are deadly, basically. So I don't remember exactly what it was
right.
called, but it was basically the Cursed Bride or the Forever Bride or something like that.
Oh, the unwed
The
bride.
Unwed.
That's what she is. And then this is really sweet. Probably the only one of the only sweet things that Jax ever does is he holds her the entire night, or else she will die because she's recovering from the Fate's tears. And so that happens. And then they're like, we have to go see another Fate, and his name is Chaos. And even Lala is like, oh, Chaos is a monster. And that makes um Evangeline really nervous. Do you want to talk about what happens next? Because I feel like I'm just butchering everything.
No, you're good. I just wanted to jump in and say that I loved the moment between Lala and Evangeline because when she took her down to
Oh
shower,
my God.
pick out some clothes, all this stuff, she so sadly was saying how, if you don't want to be my friend anymore because now that I'm a fate, it's okay. Like, I understand. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And even if Evangeline said
Yeah,
something, and I don't remember exactly what the words were, but saying something about how, because I think she maybe assumed too, well, why did you poison me? Why did you do this? Right? I thought we were friends, and
right,
Lala was just saying, we are. I didn't do this. I mean, yes, it was my tears, but I didn't do this to you, right? My tears were sold a long, long time ago. I have no idea where they are. I didn't do this to you. But if you don't want to be my friend anymore because I'm a fate and because of I'm this unwed bride, then I understand. But she wanted so badly to
right.
just keep being her friend. Oh, it was because Evangeline said, like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to pick out clothes for me? I don't understand. What's your goal? What's your purpose for doing this? And she's
Yeah,
like, I'm just your friend. I just like we're friends. Just
yeah.
showed that she wanted to be her friend so bad.
And I just think that is like such an important moment, right? Of just the vulnerability, I think, because especially with like the other series, right? You look at these fates and you're like, these are monsters, they're powerful people, and they are selfish and they are tricksters and they are really horrible people, like really horrible immortals, right? And that's just kind of like this like stereotype that you have of them. Right. But then she just kind of breaks that stereotype where it's like, well, not every fate is like this. Like you have Jax, right? And Jax is something else, but he's also not completely horrible all the time. Right. But then you have the unwed bride, who's Lala, who's just like, probably has received judgment for who she is every day of her life. And in that moment just expressed just such sweet like vulnerability and sincerity. It's just like, I want to be your friend. Like, I think you're super awesome, but I understand you don't just because of like who I am. And Evangeline being like, we're friends. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I Thank you for bringing that up. I skipped over it or just forgot, and so that was so important. So thank you for bringing that up. So,
And I love the description of her too. When Evangeline was looking back on how did I not know that she was a fate, and the description of saying she always was willing to dance on her own and truly enjoy herself, not just being, oh, I'm going to dance on my own because I can, and being like, is anybody watching, right? She truly just was living in the moment every single moment and didn't care who was looking,
right,
didn't care whether or not somebody wanted to dance with her or not, or blah, blah, blah. Like, she just lived for the moment, probably because she's never been able to, I don't know, keep a love. And so she's keeping whatever lovely things that she can as she goes through life. I love
hmm
that description of her.
I hope Lala gets really good things in life for her. And now, so moving on. All right, this is where you also learn that Lala delightfully informs us that Chaos, who they're gonna go see, is a vampire. Which my first initial reaction was just kind of like, but I guess it makes sense. For it to being a fate, I guess. So anyway, they go to Fate's castle. He has this. Oh, it's fake. Chaos was the guard, the soldier that she met when she first went into the castle and where she first met Apollo. And that's really crazy. And
Yeah.
Jax keeps warning her, and he's like, hey, don't look into his eyes. And she's like, that's weird, but okay. So you meet Chaos, and he has this helmet and something across here so that he can't bite anyone. And we don't know any more about that, but that's really suspicious. She looks into his eyes, and like this kind of like warmth power just kind of goes over her, and Jax has to like rip her gaze away in order to be like, you need to pull yourself together. Anyway, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so like
You're
I'm gonna
doing
let you.
good. No, I thought it was insane too, because especially because you're not supposed to look at any of the vampires' eyes, and yet with his you almost can because he can't bite you, but he can still convince you to let him bite you if you make some sort of a deal, and that's how
Mhm.
he gets his blood is if the participant is willing to give him a
Right.
bite, right? But I just, because I was trying to remember with the other two times that she met him, he must have had a like the full, soldier armor knight type of a mask on. Because I thought she had looked into his eyes, but maybe not. Maybe it was too dark. Because both times that she saw him, obviously, was dark. Because duh, he's a vampire. But I don't remember anything about his eyes being covered or not. But I'm gonna assume that yeah, he had a full thing on. But obviously in his castle he doesn't,
Right.
in his eyes being so like strong green and just enchanting, which duh. And the whole thing about the shackles and the cages above, like hanging from the roof, right? Just all the things that seem so torturous and terrifying as she's going through to
Talk
meet
about
him.
like horror movie esque.
Yeah, definitely. Gave me the chills just reading it.
Yeah. I was like, ooh, no, I'm just kidding.
Basically, there was some witch who bought the oil that is needed for bad things, right? And then kind of showed them too how a human can become a vampire, and all the people on this chessboard that she was hoping they were just playing kissing chess, but they weren't, were willing participants
It
wanting
was Death Chess.
wanting to become vampires, right? And then they were thrown into
Right.
cages to not hurt anybody, but also to fight their way out to bite somebody. And just the whole scene was
Because they
scary.
have 24 hours, or at least until like the morning, I think, to get like it's like one drop of at least like human or fate blood, and they'll become fully a vampire. And it was really interesting because he said too, he was like, we call it hunger, but it's more like pain. And I thought that was a really interesting description of that insatiable like lust, I think, for blood.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It almost made you feel it, right? Like the way that he described it. And I think that was actually a
Yeah.
quote for quote was, it's called hunger, but really it's pain. It just almost makes you
hmm
feel that it was painful. But
Yeah,
yeah.
you're like,
Oh, and he was wearing the symbol or necklace of Valor Wolfric or something. Wolfric Valor, whatever his
Hmm.
name is, the like old king who got his head chopped off, all that stuff, and he said that he took it off of him or won it or whatever. And so she's saying, "Tell me more, right? Like I want to know everything. I want to know about the Valerie Arch. I want to know, right?" And so he said, "Well, I'll give you information if you let me have a bite." And so of course she's like, like no thanks, don't want
And
to know
Jax
that
is like,
bad.
wake up, girl.
Yeah, well, because yeah, so like once they're bitten, they immediately start changing, right? And they're trying to
Hmm.
get out of the cage so that they can bite something that's not a vampire. And they're the only two things in that building that's not a vampire. And so, of course, you only have so much time to get out. And yeah, so yeah, they had to leave.
One of the
But
cages is like had fallen to the floor. That vampire is trying so hard to get out, and Jax is like, "We gotta go, we gotta go." And Evangeline's like, "But wait, like, tell me." And it's just that whole dynamic is so funny because Jax is just like, and Evangeline is just dilly dallying,
which I honestly thought it would have been the other way around. I thought Jax would have been the nonchalant, just I'm here for my information
right?
and we can go now. Whereas Evangeline would have been like,
I think it kind of like reversed just because like Evangeline like recognized him, right?
right. That's true. That's a good point.
So I think that
But then
yeah.
she sees Luke.
So yeah, that's the crazy part, right? Because they're leaving, right? They can hear stuff, and
They have
as
to
they're
go
passing by the
through.
cages, guess who's in one of the cages? Guess who had been bit? It's Luke. Sorry, I'm going to take over for a second because I'm really excited about this and because I have theories. Okay, so this is what happens, and I'll let you tell the rest of the crazy. Sorry. Anyway, um, so her and Jax are just running out of this castle, and she hears Luke's pet name for her, and it's just like some nickname of her name. I don't remember what it was. It's
Was
like
it Eva or something?
some- yeah, Eva or something. And she's just like, I know that voice. And she turns and she's like, it's Luke, and he looks more beautiful than ever. He had been bit by a vampire. And she's just like, whoa, Jax, like, wait. And then Jax is like, this is not a good idea. And she's like, I don't care, like, whatever. And so he tells her everything. And he basically said that he had been put under a love spell by Marisol. And the day that he came to her house and they got engaged, Marisol opened the door. He felt something on his neck, and it was like a fog like came over him, and he could only think of Marisol. And he was attacked by a wolf, and he said that the only way that I could get fixed, this made me laugh. He was like, they weren't even sexy scars.
Frankly, that's
That
so
made me
bad.
laugh really hard. He's like, I got scars and they weren't even sexy scars. Um, so he goes to this castle to get turned by a vampire so that he could be like perfect again. And he was like, yeah, so like Marisol, now that my mind is clear, I don't love her. And Evangeline's just like, because Jax had said previously, we've talked about this, he's like, I don't trust Marisol. And Evangeline's just like, no. But Luke is now like, yeah, she poisoned me. And now she's just like, wait. Um, and so he convinces her to let him out of the cage. And Jax is like, this is not a good idea. And she's just like, no, like, I know him. I trust him. I'm gonna do it.
Well, and she
So
felt
she gets him
guilty
out of the
too.
cage. Right, because this is kind of her fault.
Yeah.
Like, a little bit. So she feels guilty, lets him out of the cage. He doesn't even wait one millisecond before he's like, sorry, Evangeline, and like goes to bite her. And then Jax, like hero that he is or isn't, he like steps in front of her and he takes the bite for her. Oh, anyway, so my theory about all of this is I had one screaming thought in my head, and I was like, Luke could still be lying. And because the thing is we don't really know that much about him. We know that he and like she met him in the shops one day. They like, and he kept coming for her just ever since. She liked him because like he was bold, and he paid attention to her.
And comforted her after her father
And we
died.
know that and comfort her after her father died. And we know that he got engaged randomly one day to Marisol. After they got turned to stone, after they were unturned, they tried to get married again while Evangeline was stone. He got attacked by a wolf. He disappeared. And now we found him as a vampire. So we really don't know that much about him. And I think Jax is right when I think that this really speaks about his character, that he did not even wait 1 second before he tried to bite her for his own selfish personal gain. Okay? Because Winona, what happened right after Jax got bit?
It was a venomous bite, not a feeding bite. So Jax started turning into a vampire. And oh my goodness, because like they were walking out, right? They got out. He saved her. Great, right? They're walking out and it was very, very quiet. They were almost at the door, and then I don't know if she felt a gaze. She felt a gaze on her, right? Because you can feel the gaze of the vampires when they're really hungry and they're just wanting, right, to bite, regardless if they're a new one
It's
or
like a heat.
an old one. Yeah, it's like heat. It's hot. And so she felt that, and she thought, oh my goodness, there's one really close to me. Like, where are they? And all of a sudden she turned around, and Jax was so inhumanly close to her, and no sound, right? Didn't even hear his
Yeah.
breathing, didn't hear his boots, nothing. And so she was just like, dang, right? Like, ah! Which I
She
wonder,
thought,
was Luke trying to turn Marisol into a vampire to be with her? Or like, what was his process or thought behind that? Because it's a choice, right? It's a choice to bite for feeding, or it's a choice to bite for to turn into a vampire, right? Just wondering. I don't know,
I
man.
mean, by Evangeline.
Yeah, because his goal was Evangeline, right? He didn't mean to bite Jax. Obviously, he was just going for the first thing of flesh. But he even said, "I'm sorry, Eva," right? And of course, I had that whole like
Yeah.
image in my head where he like comes down and that whole like, "Sorry, Eva," and just like goes for her. Yeah, just like licking his like canine tooth or whatever. But he was going for her, right? Not Jax. So I wonder why he was trying to turn her into a vampire and not just trying to get a bite just to get this over with, right? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what my theories are. I think a little differently than you. I do think Marisol put him under a spell. I don't trust Jack. I don't like him. Obviously, he's not a good person. But I do think he was telling the truth about the whole curse and everything, because Marisol later on does admit to that. But
Well, so what I mean by like he was lying is we know that Marisol did poison him.
right.
And so I just, what? Really should have recorded. There was something about when he was talking for her. I think it was about he was lying about his attraction to Marisol. That's what I think it was, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because I could also see like 'cause I don't think Lucas is a very good person.
No,
I think
definitely
he
not.
could be like he could see Evangeline being like an opening, trusting person and like wanting someone to like love her like unconditionally, wholeheartedly, right? And so he's like, I can play that part, right? And then Luke and Marisol come into cahoots, right? But then once Evangeline gets the fates involved and messes everything up, then Luke is like, maybe he got attacked by a wolf and maybe he's just like super self-centered, right? And it's just like, well, I need to look beautiful again. I don't know. I think there's some lying into that story that he told where he was like, "Oh, Marisol poisoned me." I don't know. Now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, continue. You go on. I need to think about this.
I have a lot of questions about Luke because, like you said, we don't know anything about him. We don't even know his feelings, other than at the very beginning of the story. Remember, the bell warned or tried to warn her about this boy coming into her shop, but of course, she took it as a sign of this person's important. He's, some miracle worker or whatever. But the
Hmm.
bell's like, don't trust him. So like we knew he wasn't good. Even the bell knew it. But yeah, no, I have a lot of questions because like what now what, right? He can't exactly go back to the south or north or whichever one it is and live his normal life because he can't even go out in sunlight anymore, right? So it's like what's the point? I don't
Right.
know. But yeah, I love that Jack saved her and was even fighting the entire night his want to bite her the whole night. and the things that they talked about to try and distract him, the things that he made her talk about to distract him, right? Like, oh, that was a really, really good moment. And I think that was a moment where I thought things were turning for the better between the two of them.
Hmm.
But also, there was like some moments where I was almost like, is this gonna be spicy? Like, okay.
Yeah. You're like, whoa. My whole thing too is like one really important part. He is a changeling and he is like right, and he's warning her. He's like, you should run, like you should get away. And for some reason, she's just staying where she's at. And something I couldn't partially understand because if I had like seen his incisors growing and he's like, you should run, I would have been like, see ya. Like,
You're right, you're
don't have to
right.
tell me twice. Yeah. At one point, he like has her by the neck and is like pushing it, like he has her against the wall, which um he is fighting this urge for just hours, right? And he's like holding her neck and she's like, Jax, don't. And then he just immediately releases her. And it's just like,
Okay, but like it wasn't just also him holding her neck and her just being like, "Don't do it," right? Like, oh my goodness, he was licking her. He was almost like, I don't even
yeah,
know, like, but like like
yeah.
just teasing along her neck and
Like
everything.
making out with her neck,
I
essentially.
know. Which, okay, question though, if his kisses are deadly, which he didn't technically just kiss along her neck, he was kind of almost like sucking and like licking and like just brushing his lips against her. But like, would that,
In his teeth.
you know, but would that turn her to stone? Would that count as like right? Like what? At what point is it a kiss that is
I
deadly?
don't
Right?
know, because I think he has to like will it, honestly, like,
Maybe.
which is
Well,
like his when we talk about the other kisses, right? Um, like the first two being sweet and then the one being bitter, right? It's almost like he like wills it,
he
essentially.
doesn't will the girls that he has kissed in the past to die, right? Like he doesn't want that. He wants to find his
Right.
true love, but his kisses are deadly, right? So I don't know. It was just a question, I guess, something to think about. Um,
Yeah.
maybe we'll find out more in the, or maybe it's one of those like book magic where it's like just forget it. It's just a moment, right? Like I don't know. But yeah, but
Right.
the thing that stopped him was her saying you have to open
Well,
the Valerie Arch.
sorry, I'm gonna go back to that kisses because um they described with Donatella, right? It and one important thing. Sorry, when he kissed her, he like bit her. He bit Evangeline. And so I think that all has something to do with it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know if they like swapped blood or he drew her blood, but I think that had something to do with it, right? Or these are just kind of like very on the surface kisses.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, the thing that actually stopped
Don't let
him.
Jax bite you.
Don't let him bite
Yeah.
you. He's part member. But yeah, no, the thing that stopped him was the Valerie Arch, right? That was the one thing because he was controlling himself. I mean, again, like you said, this is hours and hours of him trying his hardest to be distracted and to not think about it and to whatever, like resist. But I mean, this is hours. But yeah, no, the thing that stopped him was her saying about the Valerie Arch, and then all of a sudden it was morning. The sun was coming up, and he was no longer.
Well, no, there's an important part. You missed. Like right when the sun's about to come up, he like reaches over and just like the lock. And she's like, that could have been paper, or that could have been me, right? And he just like opens it, and then he's like coming at her once again. And then at the last possible moment, they see the sun, and then he just like collapses. Like,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a whole moment of him just like holding her, but like not letting go of like her hair and her hip, and just being like, "This just happened," right? I mean,
oh
again,
yeah,
I don't
he
know his
has
thought
her in the
process,
whole
but just being like,
position.
probably breathing and just being like, "Oh my gosh." So
And
funny.
like the thing is like it lasted so long. Also, like he has his hand like tangled up in her hair. His hand is like around her waist and like clutching to himself, right? And he's just standing there, right? And it's like the internal battle that is going in through his head right now. And what I need right now is bonus chapters from his perspective. That's what I need,
Yes, that would be so good, especially that moment, right? Just
right? Someone get Stephanie Garber on the line, please.
And then there was that paper that he was using, so they did leave, right? They were trying to find somewhere to sleep basically because he's just exhausted, right? Between holding her for over 24 hours or 24 hours and then trying all night long to resist biting somebody, like he's gotten no sleep. But he used this like newspaper or a wanted poster or whatever it was to kind of as a blanket, and it said that Marisol and Tiberius were going to be married soon or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I just had the thought that I thought in the moment I thought that Marisol and Tiberius were in it together. That they both benefited because if
Ooh,
he got married, then he's like king, and her, I mean, getting married,
right,
becoming queen, that was all that she wanted, right? So I thought they were in it together, but
right. Also, I did think it was, and nothing came of this, I don't think, but I thought it was really suspicious how tired Jax was. I thought that man was jinxed or like cursed or something because
yeah.
that man could not keep his eyes open and she had to like carry him.
Yeah. No, that's a really yeah, it was definitely weird. And also like when he was sleeping on the couch and stuff like that, and she was going through all the books and everything, which Marisol's cooking book was not just a cooking book. Uh his heart is beating. And I thought it had stopped beating because of he said with the princess, it started beating, but she stabbed him in the heart. And so I thought that made it stop. So unless it's been beating this whole time, I don't know. But the fact that it's beating and the fact that they said something about it still beating or is beating, I thought was kind of important,
I
right?
think I think Evangeline got his heart beating again.
Yes.
Which would also, I think, if your theory about kisses is true, that would mean Marisol, or not Marisol, Evangeline could withstand all of his kisses.
True. Yeah, right? That's the other side of it is if his kisses are deadly, even just a brush of his lips or, sucking on skin or whatever
Uh-huh.
is deadly, then she should be dead. But if she's the one, it wouldn't affect her, right? So that's a really
Right.
good point. Yeah. So then she's trying to frame Marisol and get Tiberius to tell a truth serum with all of this because she found the book in his book collection because they happened to stop at his place, and
Right.
and she learns that she can open any door with her blood and asking politely, and so she went to go stop them, and the way that actually her getting Tiberius to confess to everything and the way that she found the truth out was so mind-blowing to me that it was just insane and so
Hmm.
smart of her to do, to
Right.
get all the guards in and to get him to like not lie or to get him to try to lie but then he can't. I thought that was so smart.
Right.
I'd just be crying like please
Right. So she confronts, right? So she confronts Marisol, and Marisol confesses, right? She's like, I did enchant Luke. But then she denied enchanting Tiberius. But I'm wondering if she lied about that too, just because, okay, so this is what happens, right? She admits to Marisol that she got the fates involved, and then Marisol, even though she did terrible things too, is like there and then calls the guards in, right? They bring her to the room, and Tiberius is like, I'm gonna kill you. Um, she somehow gets him to drink the water, right? Because I think it's like unresistable, I think something like that from what I gathered.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
He drinks it. And she's just like, no, like you don't want to kill me. The guards want to kill me. And so he's like, yeah. Because she's like, oh, Apollo would not want you to kill his wife. So the guards come in, they're about to kill her, and she's asking him questions, like waiting for like the effect of the potion to kick in, where he admits that he killed Apollo. Marisol comes in at the very end, and he's like, I don't ever want to see you again. So I'm wondering if she lied about poisoning or potioning him too, because very different from like when he entered the room and he's like, my heart, what's wrong? Versus he's being dragged out and he's like, don't ever talk to me again. I don't ever want to see you.
So I think differently. I thought that too at first.
Oh,
But if you notice, she compared his obsessiveness over her not to Luke's obsessiveness to Marisol when she enchanted Luke. Because we know that she enchanted Luke, right? Like that's solid, at least so far.
uh-huh.
She didn't compare Tiberius's obsession to Luke's, to being the same as Luke's. She compared it to Apollo's. And we know who was behind Apollo's obsession was Jax. Jax, yeah.
Yeah.
So when she goes down to meet who she thinks is Jax, but the guards take her down, well, the guard and like some servant lady takes her down to see Apollo. She tried to kiss him just to see maybe that would work, right? True love's kiss or something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't work. But she's sitting there trying to think through all the things, like what's going on, how is this happening, why is he like this? And she thought, you know, he's stopped breathing and almost in this like paused moment where he'll be like this forever, the way that I was when I was stone, that Jax made me. So that means that Jax probably is the one who froze him. I don't know how he would have known that Tiberius was trying to kill her, other than I guess just knowing his backstory or something like that. But he's the one who killed Apollo, even though he's not dead. And then he is the one who framed Mario, because he just happened to be holding that newspaper that had their engagement and wedding and everything. It just happened to be saying, oh, you know, Marisol had this book that he happened to be holding for her to notice, right? And then he just happened to have that book in his place for her to find, and just happened to have these waters for her to taste, and just happened to, I don't know. But basically she was saying she knows that Jax would stop at nothing to get the Valerie Arch open, and he knows her, and that she would not leave Apollo in that state for anything, right? And that she would be willing, because it has to be willing blood to open the arch. She'd be willing to even give her blood to open the arch just to get Apollo to awaken, so to speak. So really, Jax was behind absolutely everything. Marisol, I think, was telling the truth about not enchanting Tiberius. It was Jax who did it to make it look like Marisol did, that to make it look like Marisol was behind everything. And not, yeah. So I think Jax is behind absolutely everything, and I'm just like, right, like,
yeah. These chapters were jam packed. Probably should have split this into 2 episodes, but I did not want to put this book down.
literally, I thought about it right after 10 chapters, but I was just like, I can't stop. This is so good.
Yeah. So there's this one quote I want to share, and this is near the beginning. And I just feel like this is such a heavy bit of just foreshadowing. Jax says, he goes, heroes don't get happy endings. And I just feel like that sits really heavy, you know?
Yep.
What does this mean for Evangeline? What does this mean for Apollo? What does this mean? What does this mean for everyone? Right? Because I don't think Jax, he might be a hero compared, like, depending on how you paint him, but, like, I don't know. I feel like that's something I need to think about.
I know. No, I don't know if he's going to use that against her, because he knows that she's a hero type, right? And well, I guess maybe that is the theory, is he's going to use it against her because he's had Apollo put in this like sleeping state almost. And he's going to use that against her because he knows that she's going to be a hero and open the portal for him just to get Apollo to wake up. So she's not going to get a happy ending in the end, or again, that we're assuming right now, because she wants Apollo to be happy too. And alive.
Right. And alive, that's important. Truly, I do. I mentioned this in my Goodreads review. I truly think that Stephanie Garber puts cocaine in her books because I am addicted. Um, I need these books like I need air. So that being said, on Tuesday we are going to start with the second book in the series, A Ballad of Never After.
Yes. I am super excited to start reading. I will read the description of it if I can find it. Okay. So this is the book that we're going to be reading next. It's just a continuation of the story. It says, not every love is meant to be. After Jax, the Prince of Hearts, betrays her, Evangeline Fox swears she'll never trust him again. Now that she's discovered her own magic, Evangeline believes she can use it to restore the chance at the happily ever after that Jax stole away. But when a terrifying new curse is revealed, Evangeline finds herself entering into a tenuous, partnership with the Prince of Hearts again. Babe, stop. Only this time the rules have changed. Of course they are. Jax isn't the only force Evangeline needs to be wary of. In fact, he might be the only one she can trust, despite her desire to despise him. Instead of a love spell wreaking havoc on Evangeline's life, a murderous spell has been cast. To break it, Evangeline and Jax will have to do battle with old friends, new foes, and a magic that plays with the heads and hearts. Evangeline has always trusted her heart, but this time she's not sure she can. Because she even thought about getting into a new promise, almost a deal with him just to get Apollo out of it, but she said like never again. Like obviously that's the wrong choice, but actually if you even look at the cover, it's an arrow, right? And this whole time it's been the archer and the fox, and so if you look at the like I'm so excited. But yeah, no, honestly, I think she did such a great job with these books. You can go onto Goodreads and see either of our reviews. I gave it 5 stars, but at the beginning of the book, I will be honest, I thought it was going to be a 3 or 4 star book because I still liked it, but it just was almost La La Land, you know what I mean? It didn't seem like it had any grit to it or any, grit, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But then the last 20 chapters, I just feel like, or even before that, but the last however much of the book, it really sunk its teeth in, and I love it now. I love it so much. So I'm excited to see how much more it's going to be.
I gave it 5 stars. I'm familiar with this author. I've read her other series, and I just know like everything starts off so like so happy, so whatever, and then it just is upside down so quick at the blink of an eye. And I just knew this was going to be good. And you know what? She proved me right. And so join us next time where we're going to talk about chapters 1 through 15 of The Ballad of Never After.
Yes, book 2.
And we're going to see what other crap Jax gets her mixed up with.
Yes. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. And you are always welcome to see our previous episodes over and over again. We will see you on